The sun was setting over the city skyline, casting a golden glow on the streets below. Amara Brooks stepped out of her sleek black car, her heels clicking softly against the pavement as she approached the Grand Regency Hotel. The building stood, tall and imposing, its marble facade gleaming under the fading light. It was one of the most luxurious hotels in the city, known for hosting celebrities, politicians, and business tycoons from around the world. For Amara, it wasn't just about luxury, it was convenience. Her schedule was packed with meetings, and this hotel was perfectly located near her appointments. Amara had worked hard to get where she was today. Born into humble beginnings, she had built an empire through sheer determination, intelligence, and resilience. Now, at just 34 years old, she was one of the wealthiest women in the world. But none of that mattered when she walked into the lobby of the Grand Regency Hotel. The moment she entered, heads turned, not because of her fame or wealth, but because of the color of her skin. The receptionist behind the counter, a young woman, with a tight smile, glanced up briefly before averting her gaze. Amara approached the desk, her posture confident yet calm. She handed over her reservation confirmation slip, which clearly stated her name and booking details. "Good evening," Amara said politely, her voice warm and steady. "I have a reservation for tonight." The receptionist hesitated, glancing down at the paper before typing something into the computer. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment too long. Finally, she looked up, her expression unreadable. "I'm sorry, Ms. Brooks," she began, her tone clipped. "It seems there's been an error. We don't have any available rooms for you tonight." Amara blinked, surprised by the response. She leaned slightly forward, her dark eyes locking onto the receptionist's face. "An error? I received a confirmation email earlier today. Are you sure?" The receptionist nodded quickly, almost nervously. "Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, we're fully booked." Amara frowned. Something didn't feel right. The hotel wasn't crowded. In fact, the lobby was eerily quiet, save for a few guests lounging on plush sofas nearby. Still, she decided to give them the benefit of the doubt. "Could you check again?" she asked, her voice firm but polite. "Perhaps another room has opened up." This time, the receptionist didn't even bother checking the system. Instead, she shook her head firmly. "I'm afraid not, Ms. Brooks. There's nothing we can do." Amara felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She'd faced prejudice before, subtle jabs disguised as compliments, dismissive attitudes during negotiations. But this was different. This was blatant. As she stood there, she noticed the way the other staff members avoided making eye contact with her. Even the bellhop who had initially rushed to help carry her luggage now lingered awkwardly by the door, unsure what to do next. For a brief moment, anger flared within her. How dare they treat her like this? But instead of lashing out, Amara took a deep breath. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone, opening the confirmation email once more. "This is unacceptable," she said quietly, showing the screen to the receptionist. "If this is truly an error, I expect someone senior to address this issue immediately." The receptionist stammered, clearly uncomfortable. Let me speak to my manager," she muttered, disappearing into a back office without another word. As Amara waited, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She scanned the room, catching glimpses of curious stares from other guests. Some looked sympathetic while others seemed indifferent or worse, amused. In that moment, Amara realized this wasn't just about a hotel room. It was about respect, and she wasn't going to let anyone take that away from her. Little did the staff at the Grand Regency know, their actions would set off a chain of events that would change the fate of their beloved establishment forever. Minutes passed, and Amara stood patiently by the reception desk, her calm demeanor masking the storm brewing inside her. She wasn't accustomed to being treated this way, not after everything she had achieved in life. Every second that ticked by felt like a deliberate insult, but she refused to let her emotions show. Instead, she observed the hotel staff scurrying around nervously, whispering to one another as if they were trying to figure out how to handle the situation. Finally, a man emerged from the back office. He was tall, with graying hair and an air of authority about him. His suit was expensive, tailored perfectly to fit his frame. This was Mr. Harold Whitmore, the manager of the Grand Regency Hotel. As he approached the counter, his expression was unreadable, a mix of forced professionalism and thinly veiled irritation. "Ms. Brooks?" he said, extending his hand stiffly. "I apologize for the confusion. Let me assure you, we value all our guests equally." Amara didn't shake his hand. Instead, she crossed her arms over her chest, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Then perhaps you can explain why your staff claims there are no rooms available when I have a confirmed reservation?" Her voice was steady, but there was an edge to it, a quiet strength that demanded answers. Mr. Whitmore cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. "As I understand it, there may have been a miscommunication. Our booking system occasionally experiences technical difficulties." "I see," Amara interrupted, her tone icy. "So it's just a coincidence that my reservation disappeared moments after I arrived?" The manager hesitated, glancing briefly at the receptionist, who now looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. "We'll investigate the matter thoroughly," he assured her. "In the meantime, I'd be happy to recommend another hotel nearby." "No," Amara said firmly, cutting him off once more. "That won't be necessary." Her refusal caught him off guard. For a moment, he seemed unsure how to respond. "Ms. Brooks, I assure you we're doing everything we can to resolve this issue. However, given the circumstances, I'm afraid we simply don't have any vacancies tonight." Amara studied him carefully, noting the subtle shift in his tone, the faint trace of condescension beneath his polished words. It was clear he had no intention of accommodating her. But what surprised her most was the lack of apology in his demeanor. There was no genuine remorse, only a rehearsed attempt to placate her while maintaining control of the situation. "Well, Mr. Whitmore," she said after a pause, her lips curling into a small, enigmatic smile, "if this is how you choose to treat your guests, then perhaps it's time someone reminded you of the importance of hospitality." His brow furrowed slightly, confused by her cryptic remark. Before he could respond, Amara turned on her heel and walked toward the exit. The bellhop hurried after her, carrying her luggage, but she waved him off. "Keep it," she said coolly. "I won't be needing your services." Outside, the cool evening air hit her face, offering a brief respite from the tension inside. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. "Send a car," she instructed curtly. While waiting, she opened her email app and composed a message to her assistant. "This place," she muttered under her breath, glancing back at the hotel's grand entrance, "is going to learn a lesson." What Amara didn't realize, at least not yet, was that fate had already begun weaving its threads. Unbeknownst to her, the Grand Regency Hotel was facing financial troubles. Its owners were desperate to sell, and whispers of bankruptcy had started circulating among real estate investors. Little did the staff know their actions that night would lead them straight into the path of a woman who never forgot, and rarely forgave. For Amara, this wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. And as she slid into the back seat of her waiting car, she made a silent vow. The Grand Regency would soon belong to her. The car ride back to her penthouse was quiet, but Amara's mind was anything but still. She stared out the window, watching the city lights blur together as anger and determination simmered within her. This wasn't the first time she'd encountered prejudice, but something about the Grand Regency Hotel's blatant disrespect struck a nerve. It wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had ever been treated unfairly because of the color of their skin or where they came from. By the time she reached her apartment, Amara had already formulated a plan. She stepped inside, tossing her bag onto the sleek, marble countertop in the kitchen. Her assistant, Clara, was waiting for her, clipboard in hand. Clara knew better than to ask questions when Amara had that look in her eye, the one that signaled focus and resolve. "Clara," Amara began without preamble, "do you know anything about the ownership structure of the Grand Regency Hotel?" Clara blinked, caught off guard by the question. "Not specifically, but I can find out why." Amara crossed her arms, pacing slowly across the room. "Because we're going to buy it." Clara froze mid-step, her pen hovering over her notepad. Buy it? You mean purchase the entire hotel? Yes, Amara replied firmly. Every last brick, every chandelier, every inch of that place. And once we own it, we're going to transform it into something better, something that reflects real values, not outdated prejudices. Clara nodded quickly, jotting down notes. Got it. I'll start digging into their financial records right away. If they're struggling financially, this could work in our favor. Amara smiled faintly, appreciating Clara's efficiency. Good. But don't stop there. Find out everything. Ownership disputes, debts, employee complaints. Leave no stone unturned. Oh, and reach out to my contacts at the real estate firm. Tell them I want updates hourly if necessary. As Clara rushed off to make calls, Amara retreated to her office, a spacious room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She sat down at her desk, pulling up files on her laptop. Within minutes, she discovered what she suspected all along. The Grand Regency Hotel was drowning in debt. Its owners were desperate to sell, and rumors of mismanagement were rampant. Employees complained about poor wages, while guests griped about declining service quality. The once prestigious hotel was teetering on the brink of collapse. Amara leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. This was perfect. Not only would acquiring the hotel send a clear message, but it also presented an opportunity to revitalize the property and turn it into a beacon of inclusivity and excellence. Over the next few days, Amara threw herself into the acquisition process. She worked tirelessly, reviewing documents, negotiating terms, and strategizing with her team. Her vision went beyond simply owning the hotel. It included renovating it, hiring diverse staff, and implementing policies that prioritized equality and respect for all guests. She envisioned art exhibits celebrating underrepresented voices, community events hosted in the ballroom, and training programs designed to uplift marginalized groups. When word leaked that a potential buyer was circling the Grand Regency, panic spread among its current owners. They scrambled to salvage their reputation, issuing vague apologies and promising reforms, but Amara paid them no mind. She knew their efforts were too little, too late. One evening, as she reviewed the final draft of the purchase agreement, Amara allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Soon, the Grand Regency would belong to her, and when it did, she would ensure it became a symbol of progress, not prejudice. Unbeknownst to the staff at the hotel, their world was about to change forever, and Amara Brooks was ready to lead the charge. The news hit the Grand Regency Hotel like a thunderclap. It came on a Monday morning, delivered via an official press release that spread like wildfire across social media and local news outlets. The headline read, "Billionaire Amara Brooks acquires struggling Grand Regency Hotel." For the staff, it was both shocking and unsettling. Many had heard rumors of financial troubles brewing behind closed doors, but no one expected the hotel to be sold, let alone to someone they had so callously dismissed just weeks earlier. Whispers filled the hallways as employees gathered in small groups, their faces etched with worry. "This can't be happening," muttered Greg, one of the senior concierges, as he scrolled through his phone during a break. "She's going to tear this place apart." "She has every right to," replied Lisa, a housekeeper who had worked at the hotel for over a decade. Unlike some of her colleagues, Lisa felt a pang of guilt about how Amara had been treated. "We turned her away like she wasn't good enough. What did we think would happen?" Greg frowned, defensive. "It's not like we made the decision, that was all Mr. Whitmore." Lisa crossed her arms, her tone firm. "Maybe, but none of us stood up either. And now, we'll have to answer for it." Meanwhile, upstairs in the manager's office, Harold Whitmore sat slumped in his chair, staring blankly at the email confirming the sale. His hands trembled slightly as he reread the message. He hadn't even known the hotel was officially on the market until investors approached him last week. By then it was too late. The deal had already been struck. Knocking softly at the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was Evelyn Carter, the hotel's public relations director. Her usually polished appearance was marred by dark circles under her eyes, evidence of sleepless nights spent trying to manage the fallout. Harold, she began cautiously, we need to prepare a statement. People are going to want answers. He sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. What am I supposed to say, Evelyn? That we're sorry for treating one of the richest women in the world like dirt? That we hope she doesn't fire everyone? Evelyn hesitated, choosing her words carefully. We don't know what she plans to do yet. Maybe if we show humility, if we apologize publicly, it could help ease tensions. Harold scoffed bitterly. You really think an apology will fix this? She didn't get where she is by forgiving. Easily. As the staff grappled with uncertainty, Amara was busy making preparations for her first day as the new owner. She arrived early Tuesday morning, stepping out of her car with purpose. Gone was the stylish traveler who had been denied entry weeks ago. In her place stood a poised executive, dressed in a sharp navy blue suit, ready to take charge. Inside the lobby, the atmosphere was tense. Employees lined up awkwardly, unsure whether to greet her or avoid eye contact altogether. Amara surveyed them coolly, her gaze sweeping across the room before settling on Harold Whitmore, who stood near the front, looking pale and anxious. Good morning, she said, her voice clear and commanding. Thank you all for gathering here today. As most of you know, I am now the owner of the Grand Regency Hotel. A heavy silence hung in the air. No one dared to move. I understand there may be concerns about what this means for the future, she continued, pacing slowly. Let me assure you, I don't plan to close the hotel. In fact, my goal is to restore its reputation and make it a model of excellence, not just in luxury, but in inclusivity and respect. Her words sent a ripple through the crowd. Some looked relieved, while others exchanged skeptical glances. To start, Amara added, her tone sharpening slightly. There will be changes. Policies will be updated, leadership roles reevaluated, and training programs implemented to ensure every guest feels welcome. Those who choose to embrace these changes will thrive. Those who resist, she paused, letting the implication hang in the air, will find themselves replaced. With that, she turned to Harold. Mr. Whitmore, I'd like to speak with you privately. As they disappeared into the office, whispers erupted among the staff. For better or worse, the Grand Regency Hotel was entering a new chapter, and Amara Brooks was determined to write it her way. Inside the manager's office, Amara closed the door firmly behind her, ensuring their conversation would remain private. Harold Whitmore stood by his desk, visibly uneasy as she took a seat across from him without waiting for an invitation. Her calm demeanor masked the storm of emotions simmering beneath the surface. Mr. Whitmore, she began, her voice measured, but firm. Let's not waste time with pleasantries. You and I both know why things went wrong at this hotel, and it starts with leadership. Harold swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously. Ms. Brooks, I assure you, I take full responsibility for what happened during your previous visit. Amara raised a hand, cutting him off mid-sentence. Your apology means nothing to me unless it comes with action. What matters now is how we move forward. This hotel has lost its way, not just because of one incident, but because of years of neglecting core values. She leaned forward slightly, her piercing gaze locking onto his. I'm giving you a choice. Resign quietly, or stay on temporarily, under my supervision while I assess whether you're capable of leading this hotel into its next chapter. If you choose the latter, understand that your role will be vastly different. My standards are non-negotiable. Harold hesitated, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. He had spent decades climbing the ranks in the hospitality industry, and the thought of stepping down was humiliating. But staying meant working directly under the woman he had dismissed so carelessly, a prospect that filled him with dread. I'll stay, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. For now. Amara nodded, satisfied with his answer for now. Good. Your first task is to assist me in restructuring the team. I want transparency, accountability, and fairness implemented at every level. Start by identifying staff members who have contributed positively to this hotel's culture, and those who haven't. Be honest, if I find out you've sugar-coated anything, consider yourself gone. With that, she rose from her chair and left the room, leaving Harold to grapple with the weight of her words. As she returned to the lobby, she called everyone together once more, her presence commanding attention. "Change begins today," she announced, addressing the anxious group of employees. "Over the next few weeks, we'll conduct evaluations to determine where improvements are needed. Some of you may feel uncomfortable, but remember, growth rarely happens without discomfort." Her gaze softened slightly as she added, "That said, I believe in second chances, for people willing to earn them. Those who demonstrate dedication and align with our new vision will thrive here. To those who resist, well, this hotel no longer has room for prejudice or complacency." The staff exchanged nervous glances, unsure what to expect. For some, like Lisa the housekeeper, there was a flicker of hope. She had always prided herself on treating guests with kindness, regardless of their background. Perhaps this change could bring opportunities she'd never imagined. Others, however, weren't so optimistic. Greg, the senior concierge, muttered under his breath about rich people playing games. His resentment festered, though he kept it hidden. For now. Later, that afternoon, Amara met with Clara and her real estate advisors to finalize plans for renovations. They discussed updating the decor to reflect modern tastes, adding community spaces for events, and even commissioning local artists to create murals celebrating diversity. Every detail was carefully considered, each decision aimed at transforming the Grand Regency into more than just a luxury hotel. It would become a symbol of progress. As evening fell, Amara stood alone in the hotel's grand ballroom, envisioning its future. The space was dusty and outdated, but she could already see it alive with laughter, music, and unity. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about creating something meaningful. Outside, the city lights twinkled against the night sky, unaware that within those marble walls a revolution was quietly unfolding, and Amara Brooks was ready to lead the charge. The weeks that followed Amara's takeover were a whirlwind of activity at the Grand Regency Hotel. Renovations began almost immediately, turning what was once a symbol of exclusion into a beacon of inclusivity and modernity. Construction crews worked tirelessly, their tools clanging through the halls as old carpets were ripped up, chandeliers replaced, and walls painted in warm, inviting tones. Every corner of the hotel underwent a transformation, not just physically, but culturally. Amara wasted no time implementing her vision. She introduced mandatory diversity training for all employees, emphasizing respect, empathy, and cultural sensitivity. Staff members who embraced these changes found themselves growing more confident in their roles, while those resistant to the new policies struggled to adapt. Greg, the senior concierge, remained skeptical, often muttering complaints under his breath when he thought no one was listening. But Lisa, the housekeeper, thrived in the new environment, earning recognition for her dedication and positive attitude. One of the most significant changes came in the form of leadership restructuring. After closely monitoring Harold Whitmore's performance, Amara decided he wasn't fit to lead the hotel into its next chapter. Though he had tried to comply with her directives, his outdated mindset clashed with her progressive approach. Reluctantly, Harold submitted his resignation, leaving behind a legacy of mismanagement and regret. In his place, Amara promoted Rachel Nguyen, a young assistant manager who had quietly excelled in her role for years. Rachel's promotion sent a clear message: talent and hard work would be rewarded regardless of age or background. Under her guidance, the staff rallied together, united by a shared goal of restoring the hotel's reputation. Amara also launched several community-focused initiatives designed to make the Grand Regency a hub for inclusivity. She hosted art exhibits showcasing works by underrepresented artists, organized free workshops for local entrepreneurs, and even opened the ballroom to nonprofit organizations hosting fundraisers. These efforts not only revitalized the hotel's image but also strengthened its ties to the surrounding community. Despite the progress, challenges lingered. Some longtime guests expressed frustration over the changes, claiming the hotel had lost its old-world charm. Others complained about stricter policies regarding respectful behavior towards staff and fellow patrons. But Amara stood firm, reminding everyone that luxury didn't have to come at the expense of humanity. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Amara walked through the newly renovated lobby. The space gleamed with fresh polish, vibrant artwork adorning the walls and lush greenery adding life to every corner. Guests mingled comfortably, chatting and laughing without a hint of tension, a stark contrast to the cold atmosphere she'd encountered during her first visit. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Clara, calling, with an update on the hotel's financials. "We're ahead of schedule," Clara reported enthusiastically. "Revenue is up, employee morale has improved, and guest reviews are overwhelmingly positive." Amara smiled, feeling a sense of satisfaction she hadn't anticipated. This wasn't just about proving a point. It was about creating something lasting and meaningful. Still, she knew the journey wasn't over. There would always be critics, skeptics, and obstacles to overcome. But she was ready. As she stepped outside onto the terrace overlooking the city, Amara allowed herself a moment of reflection. The Grand Regency was no longer just a hotel. It was a testament to resilience, justice, and the power of change. And though the road ahead might still hold challenges, she was confident they could face them together. Little did she know, however, that one final test awaited her, one that would challenge everything she had worked so hard to build. Just as the Grand Regency Hotel began to find its footing, a new challenge emerged, one that would test not only Amara's leadership but also the values she had worked so hard to instill in her team. It started with an anonymous complaint filed by a guest who claimed they had been disrespected by a staff member during their stay. The accusation quickly gained traction online, sparking heated debates on social media and casting a shadow over the hotel's recent progress. Amara was alerted to the situation early one morning when Clara rushed into her office holding a printout of the viral post. "It's spreading fast," Clara said, her voice tinged with worry. "People are calling for boycotts." Amara scanned the comments, her jaw tightening slightly. While some defended the hotel, others accused it of hypocrisy, claiming that, despite its outward changes, old prejudices still lingered within its walls. What made matters worse was that the staff member in question, none other than Greg, the resistant senior concierge, had allegedly snapped at the guest after being asked repeatedly about room upgrades. "This isn't just about Greg," Amara said firmly, setting the paper down. "It's about how we handle this situation. If we don't address it properly, all our efforts will be undone." She called an emergency meeting with Rachel and the rest of the management team. Together, they reviewed surveillance footage and spoke with witnesses, piecing together what had happened. It became clear that while Greg hadn't used discriminatory language, his dismissive tone and lack of professionalism had left the guest feeling belittled. "Greg has been given multiple chances to adapt," Rachel explained cautiously. "But he continues to resist the new culture we're building here." Amara nodded, her expression resolute. "Then we have no choice. He's out." Firing Greg wasn't an easy decision, especially since it meant losing a longtime employee. But Amara knew consistency was key. If she wanted the Grand Regency to stand as a symbol of fairness, every action had to align with that principle. She personally met with Greg to deliver the news, offering him severance pay and resources to help him transition to another role elsewhere. Though he left begrudgingly, there was a sense of closure, for both him and the hotel. Next, Amara issued a public statement addressing the incident. "Mistakes were made, and for that, I apologize," she wrote. "The Grand Regency is committed to fostering an environment where everyone feels respected and valued. We are taking immediate steps to ensure such lapses do not occur again." To reinforce this commitment, Amara introduced additional training sessions focused on conflict resolution and customer service excellence. She also invited the aggrieved guest back to the hotel, personally apologizing and ensuring their next visit was nothing short of exceptional. Over time, the controversy faded, replaced by renewed praise for the hotel's transparency and accountability. Guests returned, noting the warmth and professionalism of the staff. Even former critics admitted that the Grand Regency had truly changed. As Amara stood in the newly decorated ballroom during a charity gala months later, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey had been challenging, but it had proven that real change was possible, with determination, integrity, and unwavering belief in doing what was right. The Grand Regency was no longer just a hotel. It was a legacy, a testament to resilience, justice, and the power of transformation. And Amara Brooks had led the way.